Welcome, audio fans. It's time for another episode of the podcast, presented by J&J Production Studios, your home for entertainment with your favorite shows available every week. And now, it's time to begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Apologies, I just noticed the tagline for the episode, and I'm going to edit that later. I don't know if it'll still show up that way. It might, but I think I can change it on at least the YouTube channel. But not to say warm vibes and deep thoughts, but it is me, Samcro. If you know me or have seen me or heard me talk before, you're familiar. Let me flip my screen here so I'm a little bit bigger. There we go. Just want to jump on real quick and chat with you guys for a little bit, chilling with me. It's a beautiful spring day from what I've seen. I haven't been outside yet, about to be out in a little bit. And I was going to do this episode a bit later, but we're also going to be doing and releasing another episode of a brand new episode for the first time in a while of Colorado music and live streaming with Big Hoss. That's going to be later tonight, so hopefully you guys will tune in for that. We've released a few new episodes last night. Hope you guys will check those out. Make sure that you do the thing, which I don't have it here, but like and subscribe on the YouTube channel so you guys can follow and be aware of more what's going on. We appreciate that. But wanted to kick back. I figure I have a little bit of time here. And again, we don't usually do this for super long, so I thought maybe now's a good time to kind of share some thoughts. I don't normally get always super in-depth and personal, but I thought about it, and I really wanted to share a few things just because, as I've shared with you guys, a lot has happened as of late, which leaves a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear of the unknown type of stuff. But just a few tidbits on some things I've learned that I think and I'm hoping will be helpful for you guys. And a lot of that is, trying to be patient for certain things, which is always hard. And I think for a lot of us, patience is not much of a virtue. We probably have all heard that in our childhood at some point in time. But I don't know. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. There's also something to be said about taking up most of any opportunities, and also just really making the most of everything. And we also see, at least for me and maybe for some of you guys, you can tell, time really gets short. We don't have a lot of window for things as much as we used to. And so it pauses a lot and causes us to reflect, at least for me. Again, I have, and I'm sure a lot of you probably have as well. So with that thought in mind too, it begs the question of, what becomes important, what's not as important, reflecting on the scope of the reality of where life is at, where we're at with time. Even a lot of times mortality. Obviously, I've shared it a lot of bit, and you guys have probably heard it throughout some of the shows we've done. I'm getting older. I'm not as young as I used to be. Not super, super old yet, but crossing that threshold. And so I thought a lot about it, and I'm like, and again, we've a lot of things happen recently that have put a lot of pause and reflection and things. And so I just wanted to kind of share this a little bit because, without trying to get too specific, but starting with, patience is one. And it's hard because, we don't know. And I'm still not sure where the future lies. I have some pretty good hopes and indicators of what is to come, could come. But I don't know if I don't have anything concrete. I don't think anything is. There's really no such thing as a certain thing in any case, good or bad, throughout life. But when you recognize that, it can be positive and negative based upon where you're at in your journey. So especially if it involves other people, not everybody's does, but everybody has different ties, different things that kind of sort of play into that. So in thinking about that, that's kind of what led me to my conclusions of Internet pause. um, if you have special people in your life, family, friends, any kind of loved ones, really, grandparents, um, everybody goes through seasons of different things. So, and like me, I know a lot of people that have struggled with a lot of different things, struggle with trying to or getting from everything from trying to figure themselves out to worry about career paths and living life and how to survive. Um, so it's and it makes it difficult because you go through those emotions and you go through a plethora of things, and sometimes it leads to turmoil and strife between between your loved ones. We'll just put it that way, so I don't think you guys know what I mean there. Um, a lot of times, we have arguments, we have fights, we have disagreements. Maybe it's over. A lot of times, it's usually over silly things. I find maybe you guys have as well, depending on where you are, in your walks of life too. But I'm a big fan of you can overcome anything and everything when you care enough about people, and if you are determined to right those wrongs and focus on a better path for the future, opportunities can be endless that way. Um, I've had this discussion, and this is where I'm going to share this bit of philosophy for you guys because I've seen a lot of things, especially over lately, probably back towards over the holidays too. A lot of things have popped up, but you I'm a big fan and believer of no such thing as something being too broken. I'm gonna actually put my camera on off for a second. I want to get up and I want to open the window because I realize it's really nice outside. Get some fresh air in here. Um, Not everybody believes those components, and maybe there's elements and trace elements where things are not as true, and that's not as much of the case. But I'm finding more and more that when people want something in the sheer will and or sheer by sheer whim and willpower, um, anything can be very possible. So by that account and by that logic and notion, why couldn't it be that things could work out and resolve and play out the way that you want them to? So that's just my thought for the example of it. Um, we all want to be loved, appreciated. Um, those of us around us want that as well, and we don't always do that. Um, so and I've learned too that I'm more appreciative of certain things as well. In addition to the shortness of time, also the appreciation of the little things, which I know it's been said, we've all said this at point in times, we all take the little things in life for granted, and I don't think it's any different now. Um, but you kind of sort of look to learn to appreciate those things more. Hopefully you do. And if not, I'm using this as an example to say, make more appreciation of that. So, just some food for thought ideas in that area and concept. Um, and again, like I said, right now, the flip side is we might all be going through something that's of great difficulty. It's been a challenging past year or so. Could be challenging down the road. I have every hope and expectation things will resolve there. I've said this, and again, stating it just as a fact of I have goals and I know where I want things to go and happen. That will hopefully align. I know not everybody is always on the same page, and everybody looks at things differently too. But I think the key thing I want to say for this is that you have to want it, you have to choose it, and if it means something, you choose it. You don't worry about fear of rejection. You don't worry about what other people think or feel. That's another thing I've kind of run into where everybody gives too much of their own opinions, where they want to help, and some people do want to help, and I get all that. But when you recognize certain people or certain friends or maybe family members that are not exactly going to steer you in the right direction, then you kind of have to ask yourself and wonder, do I bother to listen to that advice? because not all advice is going to point you in the right direction. Not the same direction. It's not going to give you the same catalyst of, there'd be the same desire there. And going back to big philosophical points of that is you need to follow your heart and follow what you believe is true. When we do that, we find to be the most happy. We find to be the most truthful when we listen to what our heart says, not the mind, because the mind can play tricks on you. And I've had that discussion with some people before where it's been a struggle of, I'm getting all this feedback and I'm listening to everyone and I'm getting advice. And I've even had that too, where, and again, I've always appreciated the advice, but there has to be a point where you say, you know what, as much as I appreciate the advice and I know people mean well, sometimes you just have to focus what direction you're going to take and listen to the own voice inside of you. Because we are so opinionated. We've said this in other shows about different topics and things like we talk about. We see it in religious topics and political topics and views on movies and games and just different things. Everybody has an opinion, which is fine. And that's how it's supposed to be. But at the same time, it can be counterproductive when people try to force their opinions on you or they don't see eye to eye with you. And then it just leads to more confusion and more chaos than is really necessary. So, point being, ultimately, is I think the best course of action there is just to really, truly follow what it is that you want down deep. Fear is a big thing. We all have fear of something. But they say that the greatest thing to fear is fear itself. And sometimes you fear the wrong thing. Sometimes you don't focus on what truly is scaring you. And also, like I said, for me, some fear is the fear of the unknown. Nothing in life is guaranteed. The only thing you can do is take the opportunity of whatever precious moments we have left, whether that's several years down the road, which hopefully for a lot of us is. Some of us not so much. We are not guaranteed of tomorrow. We don't know. So if you're looking for opportunities, why waste the time and why waste opportunity? Opportunity waste is opportunity lost. I still think of it. I know it's funny because I remember watching that from The Office way back when. Because I know it's been used in one of the episodes, but it's really truly a quote. But it's from the great one. It's from Wayne Gretzky, which I've used this kind of line myself too. But his quote was, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and you never know. That could be the winning shot. Maybe you passed up a shot that could have led to a championship. All these kind of things." So basically, and ultimately, what I'm saying is, don't be afraid to take chances there. Don't be afraid to take risks, especially when you're in a point of life where you maybe are kind of stuck in a rut. Maybe you are caught up in a situation where you're stagnant. You want to shake things up. Sometimes there's something special and a great opportunity right in front of you. You're just not seeing it and not taking advantage of. And the other thing too is when you hear that, you often wonder the choices that we make. We all want to be chosen. We all want to have a choice there. And I've learned that greatly recently too. I know a lot of choices I made that weren't the best, and I should have. And I'm not going to be afraid to do that anymore. I'm absolutely going to take advantage of those opportunities to choose whatever it is that's going to be the best option, make everybody happy, make me happy. Putting others first there too when they need to be. That sort of thing. So, you recognize that through all the bumps and speed bumps that you go through. And it doesn't matter how much turmoil you suffer with. And like I said, it's been a rough year for me specifically. I'm just using me as an example there just to make sure you guys understand where I'm coming from. It doesn't shake my confidence in people. It doesn't shake my confidence in what can come about. It doesn't cause me to lose faith in anything either. I just wait. I wait for opportunities. I'm trying to make my own opportunities, but I have to be patient for others to manifest, and I have to wait. I just fear of is that waiting going to pay off where those opportunities will choose me back, because I don't know. And I know what I've heard before. I know people other things I've said and done, but the proof is in the pudding. And when you do say something, I heard the great line, and I always say this, and I'll share this because this is really truly true, and I've learned this more so recently too. When you say something or you do something, you make a commitment, you honor that, and you stick to it. That's very important. And no matter what you choose or do in life, if you don't do that, or if you say things and don't do things, well, how are people going to believe and trust you? And what does that say about you as a person? So, and again, we all make mistakes. I'm not saying any of us is better than the other. Nobody is perfect. And I'm not saying I am the supreme prime example of it. But I've always been told that too, that you are based upon what you say, what you do. And my words are not always matched up either. I know I've made those a lot of mistakes over the course of time recently. And so I made adjustments to shift all that stuff. Hasn't given me quite everything I'm hoping for yet, but I still believe that those flowers can bloom in the future. So bottom line too, for you guys thinking about too, is not only set goals that are attainable for yourself for different things, but really truly make sure you understand that whatever you're going to do, whatever you choose to do, whatever direction you go, I might have to move. Sorry, I got some background. Well, I was going to mute myself. Let's just see. Hang on. There we go. A lot of things happen. I don't know if it's catching on the mic, but I want to just be safe for that. So, but yeah, I don't know how else to really spin it that way. I don't know. I've seen a lot, learned a lot, and I'm really just making it a point to really impart that wisdom. And again, it says others, not just myself. I kind of do like, I haven't journaled much lately. I want to do some more of that, and I want to do some more video blogs. But this is kind of what this particular podcast is for. And why I created my own little corners to chill out. It's not always to be this deep. But since it's a nice day too, and it's weather's getting nicer, and it's really a pause for reflection and thought process and everything, it just really kind of has me inspired to think about sharing these type of things, because I want to share with others. I'm hoping it'll inspire others. You don't always have to take my word for it, but if you don't hear me at anything else, hear me when I say you really need to trust your instincts and trust what goes on down deep. I've found that your gut is not usually wrong. I've gone through a lot of things where I recognize that my gut instinct is usually right 9 times out of 10, and it doesn't mean it makes me a smarty pants. It's just I've honed those skills and honed that ability to be able to pinpoint the understanding of knowing when my gut tells me something, I go with it. Had this discussion not super long ago, and came to realize when someone said to me, I followed gave them some advice, and I said, it's not just because it was my advice. I just was trying to make the best helpful insight I could give. And this person had said to me, yeah, you're right. I felt so much better. I followed my gut. I listened to what was in the heart there. And usually that's what's going to lead you in the right direction. But you get too much up here. You get too caught up here. And this is where the trouble starts. And then what happens is, I've been through this myself. I've tried very hard to block this out now. You spread this around, and then you let other people influence you. Or again, we go back to that topic of people give their advice and opinion. People are going to say what they're going to say. And I've gotten to the realization of, I'm going to do what I want to do for me, what I feel is best for me, and what I'm led to do in that direction. And pardon me for saying so, and it's not to be mean, but I could care what anybody else thinks, and to hell with anybody else, because you're not living my life. I can't live your life. You can't live mine. I can give you thoughts and opinions, and people have been doing that. And again, I appreciate every single person that has done that. So please do not misunderstand me in that vein. But there comes a point where it's like, you know what? In some instances, I have to determine for what's best for me, and not worry about others' opinions, not worrying about pleasing other people, not worrying about, oh, am I ever gonna? And this is a big one for me. I just caught myself because I thought about this. This was another interesting point I want to make, because I know some people like this, and I've seen this. Don't be so desperate for approval for people that you are willing to I can't think of any better way to say it, but give in, but to be able to give in is the only word I can think of off the top of my head. Do what they want just to make them happy, to try to appease them when they don't give you anything back. I've seen this several times, first and foremost, directly. It's a sad situation because some of these people I've seen that I know that cared about, they really want approval from family, from close friends, and they feel like they have to sacrifice their happiness and their wants and needs just to get acceptance from others, just so that they will be loved. It shouldn't be that way. It really, really shouldn't. But when you are conditioned that way, and I've known a lot of people that are like this, that's just what you're used to. You don't know any other way. You don't know how to feel or how to think. You go with what naturally feels. Sorry, put this here. I might have to shift again. I'm not sure what the mic's taking. That's why I'm trying. We're gonna be done pretty soon, but I apologize for the background noise. A lot of things are going on, but yeah. So my whole point for all of this is my goal for helping other people and helping close friends, especially. I want people to be happy for who they are. I want people to be confident in what they are. Listen, mistakes happen, things happen. Life is going to throw curveballs at you, and it doesn't mean that, for instance, when you deal with these hiccups, these major life hiccups, doesn't mean that your friendships, maybe potential relationships, doesn't mean that you're not right for each other. It doesn't mean it's not meant to happen. There's just a lot of things that are, because it's such a special thing, that other things are really trying to destroy that. So life gets in the way. So don't let that discourage. Don't let that dissuade you from anything and attempting anything. But I always forget to do this. I even told myself to do this when I was on. There we go. Again, not that you don't know I'm live, but also make sure that you focus on what it really is that you want. Do you want that friendship or that relationship? If you care about someone, you love someone, and you have that, there shouldn't be anything holding you back. And if fear of, well, I'm afraid about repeating past mistakes, I'm afraid about things could happen. Maybe you and your friends or your loved ones made some mistakes. Nothing is guaranteed. I said that before. Nothing is guaranteed 100%. But the situational reality is, if you're too afraid to take a risk, then things just will never happen. And I'll use this as a point, because I always remember this. It's one of my favorite Christmas. Technically, it's not a Christmas movie, but you always usually watch around the holidays just because it has a holiday feel for it. And it's always around the holidays anyway. But I love the Home Alone movies, first two. In Home Alone 2, specifically, the sequel, Lost in New York, if you guys haven't seen it, there's a scene where, if you are familiar with this, will be somewhat, you'll understand, but Kevin McAllister plays the title character, meets a homeless woman in New York, who becomes friends with, and they're having a moment, they're talking. And I always think about this because I feel like this line always applies for me, especially what's been going on, is so apropos for this. The call, she doesn't have a name for the character. Her character is called the Bird Lady. So the Bird Lady is sharing with Kevin how she had been married and how she had a family, but her husband at the time fell in love with her, and she was afraid to love and give her heart again. And Kevin uses the analogy, which I think is really interesting. It's very simple, but yet eloquently put. He received, I think it was for his birthday, he received a pair of roller skates that he said he loved them so much. He was afraid that if he wore them too much, he would damage them and break them. So he kept them in a box. He tucked them away, and just decided that was the best option to protecting something that he really cared about. And so the point of it was when explaining the story, Bird Lady says, I don't understand what you're trying to say. And he said, my point is, because I kept the skates in a box, when the time came for me to really want to use them, I felt confident enough to take them out, wear them, and actually use them. I outgrew them. They became too small. And so all that time I had them tucked away, keeping them safe. Now I can't even use it when I'm ready to use it. So his point was to her is, you might be afraid of getting hurt again, and there's always that chance that you will. But when you are too afraid and you tuck your heart away and you lock away when you're ready to use it, it might not be any good. And I was thinking, that's interesting because, it seems very funny when you say it in that context of from a little kid's perspective at that time he was. But it's very true. So my point is, in preparation for closing here, because I want to end this here shortly, don't be afraid, as I said, to take chances, but that also includes putting yourself out there, putting your heart out there. You might have been broken, you might have been beaten down before. We all have been there. We've all had struggles and moments where we've been hurt multiple times. We've hurt people multiple times. No relationship, whether it's a friendship, partnership, marriage, family, siblings, parents, grandparents, cousins, whatever. No relationship is ever perfect. And it's not always about what has happened. It's about making memories moving forward. And don't miss out on opportunities where you could have such a loving, caring, and maybe have more relationships, maybe through different channels, meeting different people. They make friends, but don't be afraid to put yourself out there, because what's the point of holding it in and waiting for something that you could make happen sooner rather than later? And if you don't take that advice, it's up to you. Everybody can choose their own. I've had this discussion before with a few people. It's not because I'm trying to impose my will or force that, but it's the reality of, we can only dictate what happens for us if we take an action of account for that one. I use this example too, and I don't mean to do this to offend anybody else there, but from the belief standpoint of understanding and knowing this principle as well. I learned a lot about this growing up in the church that I went to, actually a couple of churches I went to. And I've actually said this to close friends who have shared this story, talked about different things. I actually had a friend who passed away recently, well, about 2 years ago almost now. I think I shared about him on here, but I use this example here. This is perfect, where he would always tell me, always trying to counsel me and lead me the right way, which I always appreciate. I still remember those words of wisdom for that. But he would say, about going out there and telling about how Jesus went out and preached and shared the gospel. If you read the Bible, you'll see that there. And I said to him, that's a great point. And I said, think about that illustration of, you got to act the way like Jesus would act there, and you have to go out. That nobody always comes to you. You have to actively go. So, in other words, my point was, he was saying is he was becoming more of an introvert, where he wouldn't be out and then wanted people to come there. It can't happen, but you can't always wait for that opportunity. You have to take the first step, and you have to make the move to people. Not everybody's going to come to you. You have to go to them. And if you're not willing to take those steps, you're not going to get anywhere. I always say this is the other analogy too. It's like trying to climb a mountain. You can say to yourself, I want to climb to the top of a mountain. Okay. It's a great goal. But if you don't take any steps to climb the said mountain, even just a few centimeters, a few millimeters, for not much, you are not going to get anywhere. Right? You can stand at the bottom looking up at the mountain the entire time going, I really want to be up there, but I'm not willing to make any climb to get there. Well, how are you going to get there? You're not just going to jump magically. Unless you're Superman, which we're not, obviously. So at what point do you define that by saying, I need to take the steps to achieve what I want to by making moves? Doesn't mean, again, you're going to get everything you desire in life. It doesn't mean you're going to achieve everything, but you will gain and achieve nothing if you don't take any action steps. Like for me, I'm waiting for a lot of things to happen, and I'm hoping will happen. Still trying to be productive at this time. One of the big things I think I shared before, but I'll share personally because this is my own kind of little corner. I've been working towards my college degree. I started later in life. I didn't start early right away because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. But recently I've taken the plunge, and I've started that final chapter through other means, where I was actually, because of circumstances economically and things, the program I was in has actually been forced to kind of close down. So that kind of accelerated my pathway a bit. I've now enrolled in the college I plan to enroll in. I've already had all my stuff lined up, and so now I am looking at finishing up my degree, which has always been a plan. That was kind of the plan this past year, but things kind of got derailed. So I'm rededicating and refocusing on that at this point to try to get that completed, because that'll open up, obviously, could potentially open up more doors in the future. And a bunch of other things I'm invested in, interested in, I'm getting back into heavily, trying to build a future for myself and others who want to be close with me. I'm hoping for that as well. I'm still forging ahead for that. I'm not trying to be selfish and do things just for myself. So there's that. And then there is the notion that, as I said, good things come to those who wait there. Patience, perseverance. There's opportunities for things to grow there. So all these little nuances, and it's hard because it struggles with everyday life that's really throwing me curves at every venture, but I'm trying to take positive spins on things. So lastly and bottom line, I will say to you guys, and I hope, again, I'm not saying you have to do it all I'm saying there. I just hope this will inspire and encourage you to pursue other things. I hope it inspires you to take risks, take chances. If there's that friendship there, that love there, that something that you're not sure about, take an opportunity, go for it, because we only live once. Life is too short. When it feels right and you know it, it's going to be for you. So he who hesitates is lost. So if you're going to hesitate, you won't get anywhere. If you know what you want and you're confident in yourself and you're confident you know the decision, then, as I said, no offense to anybody in particular, but to hell with everybody else, because it's what you want that counts ultimately. And if you know what you want and others around you and you're all unified that way, nothing else is going to matter. So take that however you will, but I hope that will inspire you guys to follow some pursuits of dream, whatever that is. So that's my little slice and spiel for me here, chilling with you guys in the corner. Next time we'll do some more things. Now we're kind of getting into spring/summer vibes. We have this huge down at some point, but we're enjoying it for now. So make sure you guys get outside today. If it's nice in your area, it's going to be almost 80 degrees. Can't believe it. We're barely in March. Like, it's not even St. Patrick's Day yet. But get out, ride your bike, walk, do something exercise-wise, have some fun, and be prepared for a lot more great content. We're going to look at shooting and recording, going live for getting Big Hoss back on his corner of the show. I'm going to think about some things. I want to see if I can help him with some stuff. I hope you guys will check that out. But we'll see you guys again soon. Don't forget, more new Three Amigos this week. We also have an episode of the Pod Squares coming out. And we're rolling out and get ready to do the Who's Up show, which our good friend Poe is going to be hosting there for any of you late birds, any of you vampires, anybody who's got insomnia that can't sleep. Perfect show you guys check out. So we'll keep you guys more information about that in detail there as well. Lots of great more stuff to come, guys. Thanks for chilling with me. Have a great Tuesday. Enjoy the warm weather. I'll see you guys again soon. Goodbye for now. And of course, we always say here, you guys know this. Let me put up my farewell screen here. There it is. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure you support us if you can. Just by liking and subscribing. We'd appreciate that as well. But appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here. Talk to you all soon, of course. And as always, until next time, we'll see each and one of you guys at the show. Happy Tuesday, guys. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. Be sure to check J&J Production Studios on Linktree for all the streaming services and social media accounts where our shows are featured. We love and appreciate all your support. And as always, until next time, we'll see you at the show.